what would be, if you could form that into a question, what would the question be?
What would you suggest to someone to get out of that habit of constantly revisiting the financial trauma? Like we've been there with the power off, we've been there in the struggle, just that fear of hitting rock bottom. What would you suggest to someone to get out of that?
Yeah. So just so I understand what you're saying, the question is, how do I essentially stop using the fear of the past financial pressure from getting in the way of like what I'm currently trying to do? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this might seem like a simple answer, but typically what's really interesting is when we try to avoid things, the only way we can avoid them is by focusing on them to gauge how far away we are from them, and that just enhances the fear. And so what we'll try to do is we're like, oh, I don't want to think about it. A lot of people's advice is, oh, just don't think about that or think about something else or whatever. But then what happens is you end up actually amplifying the original fear that you had. So there's a couple questions I want you to ask yourself, because nothing has meaning until we give it meaning. That doesn't take away from the circumstances you've had. That doesn't take away from things that have happened in the past. But what happens is the fear is because if this happens again, that will mean this about me. So the question to ask is, if this were to happen again, what would it mean about me? But also, what did it mean about you then? So what did you learn about yourself then? Not good or bad, not true or false, but what's the belief? Because we have to figure out what the story is now. So for example, that would look like, well, I believed that I was unworthy as a man, or I believed that I was incapable of taking care of a family. And then that meant that I didn't have a place in this world. And if I don't have a place in this world, then there's no point in being alive. And if there's no, so you work through those, because what'll happen is the fear of the financial pressure is just the place in which the deeper fear is being expressed. So the real fear is probably something along the lines of worthiness, failure as a man, or whatever. It's not the actual financial pressure. That's the thing that is being expressed that's reminding you of the belief that you had about yourself. And so the way that you sort of become free from these things, right? So it's not that the financial pressure will never be there anymore. It's when it's there, it doesn't mean the same thing about you that it used to.